Right. Great, great. Cool. So we have half the chopping block. I'll let everyone introduce themselves. We have Dean from Agoric Systems, Tom from Dragonfly, Loi from Caliber, and Tarun from Gauntlet and Robot. So why don't we start with you, Tarun, like in 30 seconds. What do you do at Gauntlet? What's Gauntlet about? And then we'll do clockwise.
Yeah, so hey, everyone. I spent a lot of time thinking about risk management and optimization problems within crypto. Also invest in a lot of kind of early stage technical companies and have just been around for a while, I guess, at this point. So.
Hey guys, my name's Loi. I started Kyber, one of the earliest decentralized chains back in 2017. Stepped out a couple of years ago and started Caliber recently, which is a venture builder. Mainly invest in new founders and build, with them. And a lot of them are like, building DeFis and also work with Nears in a couple of projects.
Hey everyone, I'm Tom. I'm a GP at Dragonfly. We're a global crypto venture fund, and we're early investors in Near.
And I'm Dean Tribble. I'm CEO and founder of Agoric. We do smart contracts to be able to do cross-chain orchestration, and to me, that's the next generation of DeFi. So.
Pretty cool. So the topic of the panel is the future of DeFi in the AI age. I mean, AI is kind of hot right now. DeFi has always been hot, minus the past 2 years. I want to poke to the very basic fundamentals. Do you expect any use cases beyond just yield navigation to emerge at the intersection of AI and crypto? Or do you see this meme trend of GOAT, yield navigation, like high-level stuff, to be the trend for the next 6-8 months? I'll throw that to Tarun first.
Yeah, so I mean, I think in general, there's a lot of shock and awe and hoodwinking in most crypto and AI stuff right now. It's like generally people gluing together stuff that the AI is not really doing real crypto transactions. Arguably, the Telegram bots like BonkBot and stuff that do transaction identification, looking for malicious hacks, they're doing much more real machine learning than like 90% of the like AI 16Z type of stuff. But there is kind of this natural phenomena I think that occurs, which is there's almost like life imitating art. Like people have now had this dream of these creatures, these metaphorical creatures, or these agents using crypto and doing these things, and that has inspired people to start building stuff. So I do sort of think a little bit like DeFi in the ICO boom, where there were a lot of projects where like they're like trade without using a centralized exchange, and then a lot of them were sort of half-baked or didn't work or whatever, but then eventually that inspired people to find things that worked. I think that's the stage we're in for this. So that means there will be other use cases. There's just generally kind of, I think, this like boom and bust cycle. We're kind of like on the way to bust right now.
Yeah. That's an interesting point. And by the way, nothing that we discuss here is financial advice. And speakers only represent themselves. So, Tom, I'll throw this to you. Do you see a $1 billion DeFi protocol emerge in the coming months with AI at its core? And what would that look like?
Probably not. I think so far, I mean, most of the breakout DeFi projects from the past year have been sort of new one-of-one use cases. Like I would put Athena, for example, in that bucket, or Hyperliquid for that matter. I mean, this is a market that people have been trying to conquer for a while, and now you have players actually being able to conquer it. But what you're not seeing is a replacement of the old guard. You're not seeing someone out Uniswap. You're not seeing someone out Aave. I don't think AI necessarily changes that dynamic, but maybe there is some whole new category that AI can unlock that we're just not seeing right now. I think if you are going to see $1 billion outcome, that's probably how it's going to be. But I don't think we're going to see Uniswap plus AI equals new Uniswap. That seems unlikely to me.
Sounds good. So Dean, when we talk about AI and DeFi, I mean, I personally give this example of agents are basically solvers executing intents. How do you describe the emergence of AI, and do you see any sort of overlap in the coming months with DeFi, especially in the intent realm?
So I see several places where AI is relevant. Right now, from the perspective of complex software systems, what we see in DeFi, what we see in blockchain generally are very simple, right? I mean, tens of billions of dollars, great, but it's a swap. It's really, really simple, right? DEXs are really valuable, but really, really simple. And so the power of AI to actually, make some material difference, it's going to do well in a more complex environment. So I think it's a non-trivial contributor to a next generation of more sophisticated stuff on chain. But where I'd like to see it, some of the elements I'd like to see are help in analyzing programs that are there, security analysis, help in producing good, robust, rich smart contracts where I can understand the output, I can understand what it's going to do, and it did something custom for me. I said I want a strategy that's going to do the following yield when it crosses this thing, then build up a position over there and redeem my rewards every day and go off and do something with it, right? Write the program for that and make sure I can understand it, right? So there's a lot of value to be added there, but we're a long way from an AI agent that's doing trading on my behalf on chain.
Yep. So Loi, now over to you. Whatever you've heard so far, it seems like there's a fair amount of skepticism. While AI and DeFi, it may sound like we're forcefully trying to converge them, there might be a healthy amount of skepticism. From your point of view, you incubate a bunch of teams in Asia primarily. Do you see this as a primarily a Silicon Valley phenomenon where something gets funded by Mark Andreessen, it goes to the moon? Or do you also see consumer apps for mass market sort of DeFi founders exploring AI as well?
I would say I have seen several use cases of AI/machine learning in different consumer AI application, right? Like for example, people use basically use AI to analyze the user wallet to recommend them hey, you should look into similar asset that has some that match some certain properties that you are looking for, right? Or recommend what's the next protocol that they should try to get better yields and things like that. But I think the recent experiment with gold, right, the meme coin started by, sorry, not financial advice, the new meme coin, I think it's a really good experiment for a sovereign AI in which, basically people want, basically if you look into AI, DeFi, there are a lot of things that people want to do in DeFi, but cannot do, right, because there's human factor involved. It's not only because of technical risks, but also legal risks, right? Like this, for example, say decentralized fund management, right? How do you decentralize it? Because end of the day, someone still need to make the decision what to buy, when to buy, how to allocate the asset, right? But if you can replace that with some sort of AI factors, right? That can just automate and can make all the decision, right? Based on some predetermined algorithm, then I think that can enable a new whole application of DeFi. And I think that is the future that I'm looking for, and really looking for people to build that so that we can be part of as well.
Awesome. Now I want to open it up to more.
I'll say, I said there were a bunch of uses for crypto and DeFi. The other direction, and I don't know whether you want to explore it, is the opposite side of AI as partly DeFi and blockchain as a enforcement of relationships among AIs, right? Long ago, you might have heard the phrase, right, on the internet, no one knows whether you're a dog, right? In Web3, when you're trying to deal with a party and you've got a smart contract that is operating to enforce the terms of your relationship, you don't care if the thing on the other side is a superintelligence, right? You can still do a deal and make a trade, even though, yeah, it's going to win some clever thing that I just don't understand, but I can at least participate in the market with it. And so, as AI moves towards agent destructuring, where my doctor has an agent that is doing analysis of my medical history and discovers, or not me, but discovers there's something that a specialized agent that could analyze heart information could be a win, but that's a private agent that they don't want to share their model with the doctor, and I don't want my data shared with that vendor, and how does that all manage, and how does this AI go and contract with that agency out there, or that other AI agent? And all that should just be able to happen and happen in a trusted, structured, enforced environment that blockchain could provide it. And so there is a future economy where much of the activity is AI agents conducting business in a Web3 kind of environment, because it's kind of hard for them to have a bank account, but they can perfectly well have a crypto purse. And so I think that that's a future that's not 6 months from now, not 8 months from now, but it is one of the most important intersections of AI and crypto is that as a business environment for them.
So before I go to my next question, you raised a few interesting points. I mean, trust and coordination have been challenges for humans for ages. Blockchain in particular, you have a huge coordination problem. Would any of the panelists here agree or disagree with AI being facilitators for coordination? Or do you think that's kind of a disruption we shouldn't really explore?
I mean, I think it's very good for removing the existing structure, right? Because you might have some existing structure that says you have to take some sequence of steps in order to come to agreement, right? Like a consensus algorithm. Here you're saying, what if we didn't and we asked this third-party oracle, here's a question, right? Now, obviously, the input to that oracle could be biased. The way you structure the query could be biased, as you probably know from using all the different LLMs, right? Like 99% of the difference is not even in the weights anymore. It's like in the RAG front end, decoding stuff at the outside, which is very custom to each use case. But there is a sense in which it gives you a third-party thing. And to Loi's point, we kind of have all these legal structures that have almost prevented us from doing things because there's effectively some existing algorithm that says yes or no, this is an acceptable or unacceptable trade-off. But in a world where the agents are doing this amongst themselves, that's a way for us to learn, oh, maybe these are the flaws in our existing rules, and this is why this type of thing might be more beneficial. So I think like there's some of that where it's like we kind of don't know enough to be smart.
So on the policy piece that you just raised up around like legal ambiguity, I mean, even DeFi regulations around DeFi are kind of ambiguous around the world. So I'm curious, how would regulators view agent-to-agent trade or agent-to-agent on-chain DeFi interactions? Like, how do you see that evolving over the coming years? Maybe Tom, Loi?
As long as they're not transacting in derivatives, I think it's okay.
No onion futures allowed to be traded by AI.
You never know. It depends, I guess, on how far the liability goes. If an agent is working on your behalf and whether it transfers onto you. But I mean, ultimately, I think governments around the world don't even know how to regulate open source AI or AI contributions, or what should or should not be in sort of the training set for a model. And so I feel like the intersection of crypto and AI is, again, not 6 months out, not 8 months out. It's probably several years out from impacting sort of policy creation.
Cool. Any thoughts about that, Loi?
Well, I mean, I think even for DeFi regulation now, I don't think any country has any clarity on it, right? I mean, we seek for opinion from Singapore, a couple of other countries as well. None of them has any clear regulation about DeFi, right? So Asian to Asian kind of regulation, I feel it's still going to be a few years away. Yeah.
But AI is moving sufficiently quickly that probably AI will help people to write the regs that will then.
Well, I mean,
I hope not. I hope that's not true for too soon, because hallucination on regs sounds
is a real problem. Yeah.
So we were talking backstage, and I jokingly said, I want to bring out philosophical disagreements. So why don't we start with some hot takes about the convergence of AI and crypto? Let's go anti-clockwise this time around. Dean, do you have any hot takes on AI and DeFi? Do you see what's happening right now with Goat or some other on-chain hedge fund experiment with AI16Z? What's something you think is unsustainable there, or something that we should continue exploring?
Well, a little bit related to the hallucination that Tarun just mentioned, people will try to apply AI to writing smart contracts. And that will be terrible, because it's already, what you want to have happen and what Solidity, for example, can safely express from the point of view of interesting, rich access controls and rights are such that you can build stuff that humans just can't understand. You take two simple components, put them together, and you end up with an unsafe system. And so having an AI write that stuff that we then can't really be sure of what the properties are is a terribly dangerous place to be. Analysis of these things, great. Or writing things onto infrastructures like Agoric, maybe Move, maybe a few others, that provide much stronger enforcement of security rules will be a much better place to be, and my fear is that people will apply it to these systems that are much less, that have these security hazards that are too dangerous.
Yeah, I think those are fair points. I think fundamentally, crypto and AI are sort of butting heads with the traditional legal system for the main reason being that the legal system has these two invariants in it that they assume to always be true, and crypto and AI make them both not true, which is you need an intermediary to transact, or publishing code is equivalent to publishing free speech, and like this thing doesn't require either of those. How can that be true? This doesn't work, and so every time you see it butting heads with the traditional legal system is because the legal system can't process the fact that like this thing breaks sort of your core sort of fundamentals, and so the way they sort of get around it is by these sort of third-party touch points of, it's a safety issue, of, it's, the website is a broker. So that obviously makes no fucking sense, but they have to find some way to sort of jam it into these existing definitions. I think the only way you make meaningful progress is if you're willing to throw out these old definitions and start fresh and look at things from the perspective of 2024. If that's, what does it mean to build or run a model? What does it mean to build or run a protocol? And I think until we actually see that, this stuff is just going to kind of keep hitting roadblocks.
Sorry, what's the question again?
Just hot takes on like what AI and DeFi is all about.
I think eventually a lot of the operator roles in several DeFi protocols now will be replaced by AI.
Mm-hmm.
I think one is a lot more safer and a lot more automated and more precise. We remove like all the human error factor. And secondly, it really like makes like all the DeFi protocols like decentralized in a way, right? And I think, as I mentioned earlier, it also like make it a lot safer for DeFi builders to launch new initiative if they know that there are several AI agents that they can plug in, for example, for risk analyzing, right? For like liquidity analyzing, and that they can just like plug in and or even like governance, right? That they can plug in to sort of like build their DeFi protocols, so that they don't have like to hold the admin key, they don't have like to like contact like other parties to help them like with like all the safeguard and things like that. So I'm quite excited for that about that direction. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess I would take maybe like I agree with that in like a longer term horizon, like longer than I think the crypto market attention span horizon. I think in the short term though, I'm actually generally pretty bearish on what currently people will call AI for on-chain systems, mainly because the robustness issues are quite high, and also fundamentally, I think like from a numerical perspective, a lot of the machine learning algorithms that are manually tuned will generally do better than like the auto-generated ones from large language models. I think the key where large language models are really good is like, I have some unstructured data, I don't really know how to compress it into something that's a good embedding that I can, given that embedding, I can do some numerical math on. And I just think like we haven't figured out how to do those things without all of these like poison attacks and trust issues, and also the fact that if you look at like the Llama 3 code base evolved over time, you will see that like it started as like, here's a transformer and here's some light stuff that converts your input query to a format for the transformer, and here's an output thing. And what you've seen is the code bases have gone from like 80% neural net to like 10% neural net, and the rest of the stuff on the outside is growing. That stuff has a lot of subjectivity in it. And so I think like there's a little cart before the horse still for a lot of this stuff. I think like a little bit like I was saying with the goat type of thing, where it's like, it's not really trading on its own. It was just getting airdropped by people, and then people started kind of believing this, which is cool, right? It's almost like performance art. It's like an art form that inspires something you want to build. But I think like if I look at the code bases and then I look at the marketing, the gap is quite large, and that's just my...
The fact that you said it instead of he, though, means that the marketing worked and you believed it.
There you go.
I mean, he, him.
So staying with the investors for a bit, Tarun, do you see AI to be embraced by risk management and risk modeling research funds like Gauntlet? Or do you see that to be a disruptor where anyone can run their own Gauntlet for like finding the best parameters for deployment of capital, the liquidity thresholds? Like, how does that look like?
I think it's going to look like what you see in normal finance, right? Which is like very few models that are deployed in production that need X nines of operational stuff generally are like high capacity, non-interpretable models. And the main reason for that is whenever there's an error, like a hack, like something goes wrong, if you can't interpret what went wrong and you can't reproduce the exact environment under which the error propagated, you have a very hard time of doing emergency kind of response. Now, I think you can get to that point, but like I said, I think it's like the robustness of the language stuff is like so poor, whereas the robustness of like, you know, the traditional models you would use in trading, for instance, for risk in the same way, those are much more robust, right? And like the relative gap is still high. Now, like, do I think in 10 years the gap will go down? For sure. But I think right now it's like, it's not, you don't get the same statistical guarantees. But you know, will all of that happen? Sure. I just don't think, I think it's like, again, there's a little bit of like one tiny thing worked and everyone thinks like the ocean is going to work tomorrow, but it's like a lot of incremental steps to get there.
So Tom, does AI aid in capital formation on chain? Because we've heard from Tarun, there might be angles there for enabling more efficiency in the future, but from an investment point of view and capital formation from the ground up, does AI aid that in any way?
Yeah, I think like Tarun was saying, I think some of the most maybe directly relevant applications for AI in crypto today is like due diligence and security around different smart contract systems, but a lot of those can also just use traditional model. They use like a classic, sort of supervised machine learning model. You don't need like an LLM to know, hey, does this smart contract have an admin key or not? Maybe over time, again, like also just the spectrum of possible inputs is probably going to keep growing. We'll see, different VMs, different languages, different chains, and so therefore you'll need something that can actually like take all those as inputs and tell you more about what's happening, or even something that's more bottoms up of, hey, just knowing sort of the outputs of this contract, what is it doing? I don't think we're there yet, and so I don't. And also, frankly, I think maybe the overall level of sophistication of capital market participants isn't quite that high, but over time, yes, certainly, I think it can just help sort of create the right set of guarantees around transacting on chain. I think already in the way that you kind of see, some of the kind of simulation-based software do that today. I would suspect they'll only get more and more sophisticated, where you can say, hey, I want this set of guarantees to be true about my transaction, and hand it over to a bot to sort of take over.
Now let's move to Dean and Loi, and take on the protocol sort of research hat. You guys know the various dynamics of scaling applications on a layer 1 better than me. So what kind of AI or DeFi use cases are you most excited about, given the discussion we've had here around considerations for security, regulations? Do you see any immediate, like, novel greenfield ideas emerging? And what would you be personally excited about?
So, background, one of the things that I've paid attention to for a while is AI safety kinds of things. And so I care a lot about what people end up doing with that. But the other side is usability. I mean, the thing that where the LLMs catch on more is usability and access to something that used to be opaque to a much more general public and a much less expert public. And so you've got, this to some extent does amplify some risks, because I'm imagining you see several efforts right now of, hey, what's a strategy for me to be able to do this thing and get some Dogecoin? Or what's a, or there's this, stable coin liquidation market. I'd like to participate in it. What do I do? Help me out here, right? And people are working on that, or just arrange, right now we've got this, connected world, but you kind of have to hand carry your assets around. So I've got a thing over there, get me that NFT. You figure it out, right? And there's a lot of people that are presenting that, and sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. And so I'm excited about those getting more to the point where they do, but also back to the whole reason why smart contracts excited me is that they enforce the terms of contract-like arrangement between parties. And so having the infrastructures we're building enable people that are that are using these tools to both be protected, but also for the other people they're engaging with to, again, I don't care if you're a super intelligence or an idiot with an AI, either way, I'm doing a trade and it's going to be safe, things are in escrow, if they go wrong, I get my money back, I want those kinds of infrastructures. And so I think it will enable more people to be able to participate in a more sophisticated way with these networks. I think will enable more chain abstraction of some stuff that needs to be there. I think the right way to do that is to generate programs that can then run on a platform like Agoric that can do cross-chain orchestration, but there are plenty of ways to do that off-chain that go there. And so I think that it will provide some usability that will help raise the overall value of the crypto ecosystem and raise the access of it into the rest of the TradFi world.
Loi, do you see builders gravitating towards more fundamental ideas that we're exploring right now in this discussion? Or is it still a meme market out there?
I mean, I think even for meme, I think I started seeing people trying to utilize AI to build more, I guess, useful product for users. This, for example, in the world, all the new memes, what kind of meme that you should look at? Right? I think you can, I already see Telegram bots that recommend different kind of memes for users to look at because based on their previous activities, based on their wallet profiles and things like that. I really look forward to people who can use AI to replace all the centralized operator, right? Say you can certainly run an on-chain fund that is driven and managed by AI, and of course how to make sure that this AI really runs by a decentralized network, but not some centralized operator. It's a different question, right? Or how to verify that this AI is actually built in a fair and correct way. It actually works, according to the marketing stuff, right? And yeah, I mean, I feel eventually AI will become, the assistant to the users to navigate throughout the DeFi world, and also can be the actual operator of several DeFi protocols. That's the future I'm looking for.
Awesome. Now we have less than 2 minutes left. I want to give everyone 20 seconds for a closing thought. We have this running joke on Twitter where people say that crypto people talk more about AI than AI people talk about crypto. What do we need to change, or what needs to happen in the next, let's say, one year, 2 years, that changes that perception and we get more AI builders leaning into crypto? Tarun, we'll start with you.
I'll tell you for a fact from all the people I know who I worked with in the past who work in AI, literally 0 of them ever mentioned crypto. But the best thing is my friend who's one of the authors on the PyTorch paper and also on Libertas. He's always crypto's a scam, crypto's a scam. The only time he ever messaged me and was like, hey, oh my God, what is up with crypto? Was when Balaji made that crazy prediction about Bitcoin going 100K or whatever.
1 million, 1 million.
Yeah, 1 million, yeah, that thing. So that tells you how bad the perception is, and I think the only way you flip that is you build something useful that people that takes advantage of all the open source models. I would prefer we view the opportunity as there have been hundreds of billions of dollars shoved into giving you free subsidies for cheap compute models, whatever. Use that to make something interesting for crypto versus trying to attract AI people, because I think they look at crypto and laugh almost 99.9% of the time.
Loi, Tom, Dean, any thoughts?
I guess decentralized AI.
On-chain AGI?
I think the 2 examples where crypto is still beating AI is one, prediction markets basically trouncing every single sophisticated model of the selection. Maybe that will change over time, but right now that's clearly a scenario where the markets beat AI, and maybe there's something to learn there. And two, being, frankly, WorldCoin and sort of proof of humanity being something that is, I think, going to be increasingly needed in the future, where we don't know if something's going to be, AI generated or not. And I think having something that can basically do global Sybil resistance seems like it's going to be valuable.
I think that the big thing that crypto needs is to provide real user solutions for problems they have. The ones that show up in AI that are most interesting that crypto provides some unique value to are, is agentic stuff where you're breaking out different roles and different purposes of models that want to be able to cooperate, and you want to enable a framework of that cooperation such that they're not vulnerable to each other, and we've got a lot of technology around that. Parts of that include zero-knowledge stuff, so I can verify that that they're using a heart model to analyze the medical data even without disclosing that model to me, and various things like that. And then the other is you're seeing a lot of evolution of having a bunch of different versions of the same AI configured as this one's a farmer, and that one's an economist, and that one's a math. Why don't you simulate an argument for some voting property, right? And so you're going to start to see utility for essentially DAO infrastructure for AI agents to be able to come to consensus using some of the kinds of consensus technology that we've all evolved. And I think those are both useful places where we could actually bring value, and then they go, oh, I don't care about crypto, but I care about this. You're helping solve a problem that I actually have. Thanks.
So with this, we wrap up. Please give a round of applause to our panelists. I hope you guys enjoyed. We'll see you for day 2 tomorrow.